This is GE 6114, Mathematics in the Modern World, Week 9, Linear Regression and Correlation. Okay. Now, first, define muna natin, unahin natin si correlation muna. So, what is correlation? So, from the word itself, relation, so it is the technique used to measure the likelihood of two behaviors relating to each other. So, if there are two variables, usually, no, when you say correlation, there are two variables, dependent and independent variable. No? So, yung X yung independent variable, and then yung Y naman is yung dependent variable. So, according to Guilford, a coefficient of correlation is a single number that tells us to what extent two things are related, to what extent variation in one go with variations in the other. So, kumbaga, what is the effect, or how does one variable affects the other variable? How they are related to each other. Okay? So, meron tayong tinatawag na coefficient of correlation, wherein you can solve for the relationship or how strong the relationship between those two variables. Okay? Now, let's go with the next slide. These are the three types of correlation. So the scatter plot explains the correlation between two attributes or variables. So pag sinabi natin scatter plot is just the plotting of all the points or ordered pairs in a Cartesian plane wherein you can see the relationship between X and Y. So kung gaano ba siya correlated yung one data from the other. Now, it represents how closely the two variables are connected. So there can be three situations to see the relationship between the two variables. The first is positive correlation, negative correlation, and no correlation at all. Pag sinabi natin positive correlation, when the value of one variable increases with respect to another, kumbaga, two of the variables will increase. So if one variable increases, the other variable also follows or increases. So they increase together. That's positive correlation. So for example, supply and demand. If there is an increase in demand variable, there will be an increase also in supply para matapatan niya kung ano yung demand. Kasi kung hindi, it would be a disaster. It would result to scarcity of that kind of goods or that kind of supply. Next is negative correlation, when the value of the one variable decreases with respect to another. So, baliktad lang siya ng positive correlation. They are related, no? When one variable decreases its value, the other one respects it. Kumbaga, it follows the decrease of value. Okay. So, for example, no, for example, my survey, na yung mga kabataan is less involved to premarital sex, no, in 2021. So it would result to lowering of the population growth. So if there is a decrease in premarital sex involvement of kabataan or of the youth, there would be a decrease also of the population growth. So that is negative correlation. So one is decreasing, so it also affects the other variable na dapat mag-decrease din siya. So that's negative correlation. No correlation when there is no linear dependence or no relation between two variables. For example, what is or how does the number of cups of coffee you drink in the morning affects your IQ? So there's no correlation at all. Kahit pang isang barko ng coffee ang inumin mo, it would not affect your IQ. Siguro magiging gising ka lang talaga or no, hindi ka makatulog from that because of caffeine, or it will like kill you because it's too much caffeine. But it doesn't there's no relationship between the IQ and the number of cups of coffee you drink in the morning. That is one example of no correlation. Now, these are the graphical representations of different correlations. So yung strong positive correlation, as you can see, yung points niya, yung mga data points, yung X and Y are very close to the line. This line is called the ideal correlation. line or the regression line. So, yan yung ideal, guys. So, based on this given set of data values, this would be the ideal. So, the closer the plots or the points to the line, it means it shows a positive correlation, strong correlation, which is positive because, as you can see here, the graph is increasing. Okay? Now, with a weak positive correlation, as you can see, mas scattered yung mga points from the regression line. While a strong negative correlation, so baliktad lang siya ng strong positive correlation, pero yung mga points malapit pa rin sa line, pero yung graph is going down because the values of X and Y here is decreasing. But they have a strong correlation. They are related, really related to each other. They affect or they have effects on one another. They have effect on one another. Okay? So malapit lang din siya sa regression line. While yung weak negative correlation, as you can see, may malayong mga points from the line. Yung moderate negative correlation naman is some of the points are near to the line, some of which is medyo malayo. So moderate, hindi lahat dikit din, pero malapit. Then ito yung no correlation. So walang common ground lahat ng points. So scattered all over lang siya. Okay? Now let's go to the next slide. So this is the Pearson correlation coefficient. So in statistics, the Pearson correlation coefficient, also referred to as the Pearson's R. So the Pearson's product moment correlation coefficient or the bivariate correlation is a statistic, no, that measures linear correlation between two variables X and Y. Kumbaga, this formula or this Pearson coefficient, correlation coefficient will tell you kung gaano ba ka-strong ang relationship between two variables. Ganon. So, sana all strong ang relationship. So, yun. So, the higher the correlation output, it's either negative or positive, it will show a very high correlation. So, high positive if 0.9 to 1.0 or 90% to 100%. Or negative 90% to negative 100%. Kahit, bakit negative? May negative na correlation. Kasi nga, may situations wherein the relationship between two variables, no, their values are decreasing. That's why negative ang correlation nila. So 0.7 to 0.90 is high positive, 0.5 to 0.70 is moderate, 0.30 to 0.50 is low positive, and 0.0 to 0.30. Okay. So saan ba ito magagamit itong Pearson R, sir? So magagamit yan if you will have a research on English, thesis, no, when you are in the higher years. So you will get the correlation coefficient if you are handling or if you are studying yung may mga variables X and Y that would affect with each other and will affect the situation that you are studying with. Okay. Now, the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient or Pearson correlation coefficient for short is a measure of the strength of a linear association between two variables and is denoted by R. So basically, a Pearson product moment correlation attempts to draw a line of best fit through the data of the variables. No? As you can see, balik tayo dito. Yung line na yan will tell you ano yung ideal line. Hello? Putol-putol ba ako, guys? Putol-putol, sabi ni Charmaine. Baka
Hindi naman po, sir.
nagbabuff, baka yung internet mo, Charmaine, yung may problema. Position mo yung sarili mo or your gadget closer to the router or hanap ka ng place wherein your data is stable. Clear naman daw. Okay. Let's go back. Now, so kumbaga itong linyang yan is the best fit. Kumbaga ito yung kumbaga, this value is 1.0 correlation, meaning that is the ideal regression line or relationship between X and Y. Kung nag-lie coincide with that line, yung mga points, it means na it is a strong positive correlation. Okay? Or closer to that. Pag sinabi natin yung line na nagbe-best fit, kumbaga on that equation or on that set of ordered pairs, yan yung ideal na makakuha ka ng 100% or 1.0 na size of correlation. Okay? Two variables, and the Pearson correlation coefficient R indicates how far away all these data points. So yung regression line again, ito yung ideal. While yung R naman, yung Pearson correlation coefficient, no, mali yung pagka-discuss ko. Ito, yung linya, ito, will be the regression line. Yan yung ideal, yan yung best fit. Kumbaga, 100% na strong positive correlation, 100%. While ito, yung kukunin mo yung Pearson R, ito, pag kukunin mo yan, malalaman mo kung gaano ba kalayo yung mga points from the ideal. Kung gaano ba siya kalayo. Okay? What's the difference between the distance of the original data point to the ideal point? Now, let's have an example. So find the value of the correlation coefficient of the following table. So, ang age is ang X variable natin, while ang glucose level natin is yung Y variable. Then, may 6 na subjects tayo. So, balik tayo dito sa formula. Itong N is the number of data points na pinag-aaral natin. So, on this example, we have N is equals to 6. Okay? While ito, X times Y, it means that we have to multiply X and Y variable, then get the result, then sum it up. Then, the summation of X, summation of Y, the summation of X squared, wherein yung value ng X natin, erase to 2 natin lahat, then get the sum. Then, the summation of X, then the summation of Y squared also. So, from this, guys, if you were told to get the Pearson R, or the Pearson coefficient, correlation coefficient, so you have to get the summation of xy, yung n, summation of x, yung summation of y squared, and the summation of x squared. So, paano yan? So, on this, no, get the Pearson R, or the correlation coefficient. All you need to do is get the product of x and y, get the value of x squared, isa-isa, erase to 2 mo to isa-isa, then y squared. Erase to 2 mo to. Isa-isa. Tapos lagay mo dyan. Kasi nga, para may masubstitute tayo later sa formula. Pakimute po. So, ayan. So, yun na. Yun nga, mag-add ka ng 3 column. Okay? Now, so add 3 more columns for x times y, x squared, and y squared. All you need to do is multiply x and y. Yeah, erase to yung lahat ng x and y squared. So you can see x times y is just multiplying x and y. Napakadali until dito. Then next is raise to 2 mo yung x lahat. So 43 raised to the power of 2 is 1849. Squared of this is 441, so on and so forth. Same with y squared. Okay? So kunin mo lang yung raised to 2 niya. Ito. Okay? And from that, di ba, ang kailangan natin sa formula, as you can see, is the summation of xy, summation of x, summation of x squared, and y squared. So, kunin mo yung mga summations nito. So, this is the summation of x, summation of y, summation of xy, summation of x squared, summation of y squared. Para may pang substitute ka sa Pearson R na formula. After that, so kunin mo yung summation niya. So, add mo lang to lahat ng x, add mo lang lahat ng y, add mo lang tong xy, lahat ng xy, x squared, and y squared. So we got these values. And from that, we can substitute it directly here. So the summation of x natin is 247, summation of y is 486, summation of xy is 20,485. The summation of x squared is 11,409, and yung y squared naman is 40,022. Then ang n natin is 6. So substitute lang isa-isa dito, and we will have a result of 0.529809. So the range of correlation coefficient is -1 to 1, or -100% to 100, positive 100%. Our result is 0.5298 or 52.98%. So paano yan? Kinuha yung percentage niyan. 52.98 multiply by 100 para maging percentage. And that is 52.98%. Therefore, it means that the variables have a moderate positive correlation. So tingnan natin sa chart. So ang answer is 0.5982. Tama ba? Mali. 52.98, sorry. 52.98. So saan siya nag-fall? Dito. So maggagawa ka ng conclusion. The two variables have a moderate positive ito positive correlation with each other. On to the next slide. So we're done with correlation. Let's go with linear regression or simple linear regression. So what is simple linear regression? So simple linear regression analysis is a technique that is used to model the dependency or one dependent variable upon one independent variable. So this relationship between these two variables is explained by an equation. So kumbaga, yung linear regression guys is gagawa ka ng equation from the ordered pairs na binigay. So yung regression and correlation are actually fundamentally the same statistical procedures kasi kukunin nyo yung R, kukunin nyo yung summation ng X, summation ng Y, summation ng XY, summation ng X squared, summation ng Y squared. The same. Pero ang difference nila essentially is what your purpose is. Kung ano yung purpose, ano yung gusto mong makuha na result. So what are you trying to find out? So in correlation, it shows kung gaano ba ka-strong yung relationship between X and Y. How they are correlated. So it's either strong or weak correlation. While as a regression naman, we are specifically concerned with how well we can predict Y from X. So kung gagawa ka ng equation to predict kahit anong input sa X, you can predict the value of Y. Okay? So these are the things that you should remember when you're dealing with simple linear regression. So first is there's only one independent variable X. Next is the relationship between Y and X is described by a linear function. That's why yung mga figure natin kanina, ito is straight line. Kumbaga, ang representation ng regression line would be linear function. Changes in Y are assumed to be caused by changes in X. Of course, no, kasi yung Y yung dependent variable and yung X yung independent variable. Kumbaga, if there is a change in X, maaapektuhan talaga yung Y. Okay? Okay. Now, examples of the use of regression in education research include defining and identifying underachievement or poor performance or specific learning difficulties, for example, by determining whether the pupil's reading attainment or reading skill is at the level that would be predicted from the IQ test. So, there is a certain IQ wherein you can predict kung ano yung skills when it comes to reading comprehension and reading skills overall ng isang bata. So another example would be screening tests perhaps to identify children at risk of later educational failure. Yung mga estudyante medyo mahina yung performance with the use of regression line and correlation, you can identify the students who need support and more help para mabago yung performance nila. So in regression, it is convenient to define that X as the explanatory or predictor or independent variable and Y as the outcome or the dependent variable. We are concerned with determining how well X can describe Y. So it is important to know which variable is the outcome Y and which is the explanatory variable X. This may sound obvious, but in education research, it is not always clear. For example, no, does greater interest, so if you're interesado kang magbasa, does it predict that you have better reading skills? It doesn't work like that. So you have to swap it. No? So if you have better reading skills, therefore you are interested to read. Kasi nga, alam mong i-comprehend yung librong gusto mong basahin. If you have good reading skills. So education research is littered with such as chicken and egg na argument. No, kung sino yung nauna. So make sure that you know what your hypothesis about the relationship is when you perform a regression analysis, as it is the fundamental to your interpretation. Okay? Okay. So let's try to visualize how we can make the prediction using this scattered plot. So using this graph lang by just looking at it. Now, you have figure 2.5.1 and figure 2.5.2. Now, in 2.5.1, so plot 6 observations or 6 points. Okay? So we can summarize the linear relationship between the X and Y by drawing a line straight through the data points. And this is called the regression line. So it is calculated so that it represents the relationship as accurately as possible. So as you can see, yung red line dyan sa taas, it would represent the regression line. That is the ideal relationship should be in that particular situation in this scattered plot. So figure 2.5.2 shows the regression line. It is the line that minimizes the differences between the actual Y values and the Y value that would be predicted from the line. So kasi, as you can see there, yung mga points na yung nasa figure 2.5.2, hindi malayo siya masyado sa regression line. Therefore, yung regression line is the ideal, no, para makita natin yung correlation ng dalawang variable. If malayo sila sa regression line, meaning mas mababa yung probability na they are related. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the next slide. So, as you can see there, given na yan, huwag kayo malito paano yung sinolve yung 2.4 at 1.31. So, given na yan. As you can see, the line has a formula of y is equals to a plus b times x, where a is the intercept. No, this is the point where the line meets the y-axis, where x is equals to 0. So, in this case, on this graph, this is the 2.4 na intercept. While yung slope or the gradient of the line is the amount of y increases for each unit increase in x. So if we, for example, no 0, nag-increase tayo ng 1 unit. Anong mangyari sa y? As you can see, umangat yung y by 1.31 units. So move na naman tayo ng 1 unit to the right sa x-axis. Then mag-add ka na naman ng 1.31 units to the y. So on and so forth. So the regression line represents, so yun lang yung ibig sabihin ng graph na yan, represents the predicted value of y for each the value of x. So for example, no, on this case, no, ito yung formula, right? Ito yung y-axis, ito yung slope. So y is equals to, ang a natin is 2.4. Plus, kasi nga, we follow the a plus b x. Plus, ang slope natin is 1.31 x. So, yun. So now, From this, no, yung correlation kasi guys, di ba, ang kaiba niya sa regression, linear regression, yung sa correlation, i-describe lang niya kung gaano ka-strong yung relationship with X and Y. Hindi niya ipakita kung ano yung ideal na formula. And gaano ba kalayo yung mga points na yun from that ideal line. So, ito na yun, regression. Yun yung kaiba nila with correlation. So, as you can see, we can predict kung kahit anong value ng X. For example, yung value ng X daw dito is 3.5. So, substitute ka ng 3.5 dyan. It would result to 7. So, kindly check. You can check it on your end. So, I think that's 6.9 something, pero ni-round off lang niya. Now, of course, the model is not perfect. The vertical distance from each data point to the regression line, as you can see, in 2.5.52, na figure, may distance vertically from the line. Ito yung tinatawag natin na errors of prediction. So, these are the errors, no, called residuals. Kasi yung ideal dapat the X and Y nandito sa line na ito dapat nag-lie. So, napakalayo niya from the line. Okay? Now, the equation has a form of y is equals to a plus bx, where y is the dependent variable. Y is the dependent variable. That's the variable that goes on the y-axis. X is the independent variable. Plotted, it is plotted on the x-axis, while yung b naman, yung slope. Okay? Ito yung x independent variable. While yung a naman is yung y-intercept. Okay. Resume natin. Yan. So here are the assumptions of simple regression. So first is linearity. The mean of each error is 0. So it's linear. Okay? So there's kumbaga, ang liit ng error, no, the residuals na sinasabi natin kanina. Excuse me. That's one. So next is sana yan? The independence of error terms. So the errors are independent from each other. Of course, no, the residuals of each of the points is independent from each other. They're not kumbaga ang error ng isa is iba yung error sa this point from this point so on and so forth. Next is normality of error of terms. So the error of each variable is normally distributed. So may error talaga along the scattered plot. As you can see, no, hindi naman talaga perfect na along the line talaga, regression line yung spread ng mga points. Next is homoscedasticity. So the variance of the error for the values of each variable is the same. So yung variance meaning yung difference between the error of each of the value or data set is the same almost. So we can say that they are homoscedasticity or showing homoscedasticity. Okay? Now, let's have an example of how to solve for the linear regression by hand. So ito yung mga steps. First, you have to compute for the product of x and y. Then, square the values of x and y. Then, find the summation of x, y, xy, x squared, and y squared. Then, solve for the slope for the intercept, solve for the intercept, and substitute the values to the regression formula, which is y is equals to mx plus b, which is if you remember, that's the standard form for linear function, or this one, the standard form for linear regression. Okay? Now, so these are the formulas for the slope and the y-intercept to get the formula. So, isa-isayin natin to. Ito yung y-intercept, ito yung slope. So first, you have to solve for the m or the slope. Okay? You have to solve for m. Next is, as you can see here, yung n dyan is the number of data set. Ilan ang pairs of x and y? Ilan yun sila? Ilan yung pinag-aaralan mong situation or problem? Ilan yung mga things doon? Now, next is you have to get the summation of x times y, which is the domain times the range, the values. Then, the summation of all the domain, the summation of all the range or the x and y values, and the summation if the domain is raised to the power of 2, kunin din yun. Then the summation of y, which is the range, then the slope. Kasi nga, after solving for the slope, pwede mo nang isolve si Y-intercept. Kasi ito yung formula niya. Need niya muna yung value ni M or ni slope before makakuha ng Y-intercept. Then yung N is the number of observations or population of the data set. Now, let's have this. No? So, there is a number of chimpanzee with a corresponding successful hunts. All we need to do is to figure out kung ano yung regression line formula or yung equation. Okay? Or the simple linear regression na equation niya. So what will it be? So yung x natin is number of chimpanzees while yung y is percentage or percent of successful hunts. So ang first na kinuha is yung x times y, then x squared and y squared. All you need to do is multiply x and y on this column. This one is, ni-raise to 2 mo lang yung x, lahat. Then you put the values here on this column. Same with y squared. So, square mo lang yung mga y. Then, lagay mo dito yung result. Then, after that, kunin mo yung summation. Summation ng x, which is 36. Summation ng y is 449. Summation of xy, sorry. The summation of xy is 2,249. So, ginawa lang ang sum nito. So, 204. Ito, kinuha lang ang sum. This is 26,541. Then, after that, you get the slope and the y-intercept. So, kasi meron na tayong summation of xy, summation of x, summation of y, summation of x squared, and summation of y. So, from that, we can solve it. So, as you can see, no? Yung n natin, ano yung n natin? Ilan yung chimpanzee na pinag-aaralan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, 8 ang n natin. So, 8 ang nilagay dito. Then, the summation of xy, ito. Sinubstitute dito, 2,249. Then, summation of x, ito. Then, the summation of y, ito. Sinubstitute lang dito. Then, sa baba, n natin is 8 pa rin. Yung summation of x squared natin, balik tayo. Ito, 204. Then, ang summation ng x natin is 36, then ni-raise that 2. So, we got the slope 5.4405. Okay? Now, next is, we can get the y-intercept by substituting the values here. So, yung summation of y natin is, balik tayo sa previous, the summation of y natin is 449 minus the slope, which is 5.4405. Then, ang summation of x natin is 36 over, ang n natin is 8. So, ang result natin is 31.64. So, ang final formula natin or regression line formula natin would be this, 5.4405x plus 31.6429. Now, there you have it. You can make predictions of y from the given values of x using the equation y is equals to 5.4405x plus 31.6429. Okay? So, this means that our line starts out with 31.6429. So, if we plot that, ang first na point na mag-touch yung regression line is, for example, this is 31.6429. Then it increases like this. Kuha? So from that, no, if we, for example, start tayo with 0 na x, then ang next is 1, is 2, 3. Pag mag-increase tayo ng 1 unit of x, mag-a-add ka ng what? Mag-a-add ka ng 5.4405 sa y. Okay, so kung ano yung y dito, yung y coordinates dyan, okay, which is 31.6429. Okay, yan yung y coordinates ha. So mag-a-add ka lang ng 5.4405 each time para makuha mo yung y na mga values here. Or simply substitute yung x dito para makuha mo yung y. Now, sabi dito, y values increases by 5.4405 percentage points for every one chimpanzee that joins the hunting party. To test this out, what if 4 chimpanzees daw? So substitute mo lang sa formula. So 5.445 5.4405 times the quantity 4 plus 31.6425. Ang answer is 53.54. So let's see. Yung 4 chimpanzees is 57, sabi niya. So pero ang actual answer dapat is 53.4. Kaya nga, yung mga regression line natin is ganito ang itsura niya. Then yung mga points, medyo malayo sa regression line. Kasi nga, hindi naman talaga perfect yung mga points na ito. So as you can see, if this is the regression line, halimbawa lang, itong 4 chimpanzees na X, so for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, nandito. So kung 4 siya, ito yung ideal na 53.4 yung Y. Then yung X natin, ang X natin is 4. So 4, 53.54. Pero ang binigay sa 4 dito sa datasheet natin or sa ordered pairs natin, yung 4 daw is 57. So medyo mataas. So nandito yan, most probably. Same sila ng X, pero medyo malayo lang siya sa ideal, which is 53.4. So that's why ito, nakikita nyo, ito, nandito yung regression line, pero malayo siya sa regression line. Hindi siya yung actual na naka-lie siya in that. So from this, no, you have solved the ideal. Ito talaga dapat ang i-follow para makakuha tayo ng 100 or 1.0 na correlation, strong correlation. Pero as you can see, hindi nga consistent. Nakadepende pa rin siya. So kung i-plot natin to, malalaman natin kung gaano ba kalayo yung mga points na ito. 1,30, 2,45 with the actual values. Okay? So ito yung ideal, then probably yung mga points dito, yun yung nasa dito. Intindihan? So yung vertical distance of all points from the regression line will be the residual. So for example, you want to know how strong is the relationship on the exam grade on the number of words in the student's essay. The data is below. So you have to solve for the R, Pearson R. Kasi nga, if you are looking for the how strong the relationship between two variables, which is grade and words on the essay. So let's say na yung grade is yung X and yung Y yung words on the essay. Ito yung X, ito yung Y. So kukunin mo yung CR, kukunin mo din yung R squared, and also kukunin mo yung formula. Kunin mo yung tatlo. So, how can you do this no if ganito kadami yung data mo? So, matagalan ka, di ba? So, you have to get the values of xy, x squared, y squared pa, summation pa. So, ang tagal. So, we can do this using Excel. So, ito yung original, di ba? Ito. Kunin natin yung R squared, yung regression line formula using Excel. 'Di ba? Ito yung formula for R, person R, di ba? To show the relationship. Ito yung formula. So we have to get the summation of xy, summation of x, summation of y, summation of x squared, summation of y squared. Yan yun, di ba? Next is ito yung para sa ito. Ito naman is for the regression line formula. Yung y is equals to a plus bx. So now, ito, gumawa ako ng columns. So yung student is 12 students siya. Ito yung mga grades nila. So we have to get x times y, x squared, and y squared. Then the summation of each, summation ng x, summation ng y, so on and so forth. Now, paano ba yan? So sa Excel, guys, if you want to insert a formula or calculate something, you start with equals. Okay? Equals. Then, anong gawin sa x and y? So multiply. So asan ba yung x first na x value? 79. So click mo yan. Then asterisk. Then click on the y. X times y. Then enter. Automatic, imumultiply niya. So yun, no? Magic. Pakadali. Sir, do we have to do this 11 more times? No. Kung ano yung formula dito, pwede natin i-copy dito hanggang dito sa pinakalas. Paano yan, sir? So click on the cell na may formula, ito. Then go to the lower right, yung corner niya. Then pag mag-black na cross siya, drag it down. Automatic. Yun. So minultiply niya isa-isa. Yung x and y. Kinapi niya yung formula sa taas. So yun, nakuha na yung x times y. Madali lang ba? Madali. So yung ginawa natin kanina, pwede din dito. Pwede din ganito ang gawin para hindi na kayo mahirapan. Kuha? Okay. Now, how about yung x squared? Pag sinabi natin x squared, guys, you have to raise this to 2 isa-isa. So napaka-hassle, di ba? So, ano nga yun? So let's start with equals. Basta mag-insert ka ng formula, equals talaga yan. Then, raise to 2 siya, right? So we have to have the open parenthesis, then click on the first number, which is x. Ito, kunin natin yung raise to 2 niyan. Then close parenthesis. Then erase to 2 natin. So shift 6, then 2. So itong yan. So itong symbol na ito is representation of power or exponent. So ni-raise niya to 2 yung first na what? The first x value. So do we have to repeat that 11 times? No, same procedure kanina. So yan, kinuha niya yung so napakadali, no? Magic na naman. Dali lang, no? So kinuha niya isa-isa. Now, yung y squared. So do we have to type equals then squared na naman? No. 'Di ba yung x squared and y squared the same siya, pero yung square niya or ni-raise niya sa 2 is yung x dito on this column. Dito naman is y. All you need to do is drag this to the right. Automatic mag-move yan ng column. Kuha, then drag down. So it means na ni-raise to 2 niya isa-isa yung y. Napakadali. Yun. Kuha. Any questions on this? Dali lang, di ba? Madali lang, di ba? Now, yung problem na naman natin, balikan natin yung formula ng R or yung person R. Need natin kunin yung mga summations ng x, ng xy, ng x squared, ng y squared. So, ito, it indicates na yung sum ng x nandito. This one. This one is a y, so on and so forth, right? So, paano kunin yung summation? How to add this one? Isa-isahin ba siya, sir, na equals, tapos click mo to, plus. So, may shortcut yan. So, equal sign, type mo sum. Then, open parenthesis, click on the first cell, then you drag it down kung saan yung hanggang gusto mong i-add niya. Then, close parenthesis, then enter. Yan. Nakuha na yung summation ng x. Ito na yun. Yan na yan. Okay? Yan. Yan yung summation ng x. How about yung summation ng y and the rest? Summation of x, y, x squared. So, pwede bang gayahin na lang, sir, same lang man sila, magkuha ng sum. Yes? So, drag it to the right. So, kunin niya yung sum isa-isa. Ito. Kuha niya ang sum dito, kinuha niya ang sum dito, kinuha niya ang sum dito, kinuha niya ang sum. Yun lang. Napakadali ng buhay. So, ibahin natin ng color para ma-recognize natin later. So, this one would be natin ito. Then, change lang natin yung color with para klaro. Yan. Then, ito this is lagay natin black then white. Yan. Para iba-iba yung color, ma-differentiate natin agad. So, this is lagay natin yellow. Yan. So, alam na natin, no? Yung mga values niyan. So, can we get the mean of x and y, sir? Yes. Pag sinabi natin arithmetic mean, ano nga yun? So, start with equal sign. So, the summation of all the values divided by the number of values. So, ang summation, nandito na, ito. Then you divide that kung ilan values dapat, which is 12. 12 yan ka numbers, right? Then enter. Then copy mo lang yung formula to get the summation or the mean on y. Ito. Okay? Oops, namali. Wait lang. So, it should be 12. So, na-misalign siya as you can see. So, move mo lang. Dapat 12 yung i-divide mo. Yan. Move mo lang doon. So, that's 176.25. Yan yung mean niya. Ito yung mean. So, let's, yan, yung mean. Now, we're done with that. Let's solve for R. Paano ba i-solve si R? So, paano ko ba ito nakuha? Ito. So, hinati ko siya into 3 parts before ko na-solve si R na ito. Paano yan? So, ganito. So, inuna ko si numerator. Inuna ko tong in-execute kasi nga nakakalito. Ang dami nito eh. So, start tayo with equals. So, gamit tayo ng mga close and open parentheses para ma-separate natin per term. So, dito, let's do 2 open parentheses. Okay? So, ang sabi dito, n. Ang n natin is 12. Tama? 12 numbers yon. Then, multiplied by the summation of x and y, which is this one. 183,222. Then, close parenthesis, minus. So, we're executing yung sa top lang muna, numerator lang muna. Then, open parenthesis na naman kasi nga, you have to multiply the summation of x times the summation of y. Then, close. Then, close. Okay? So, itong first term, n times the summation of xy, then the summation of x times the summation of y. Ito na yun. Then, enter. Kuha. So, numerator pa lang yan, ha? Let's go with the denominator. So, dito, hindi ko muna kinuha yung square root. Inuna ko muna yung nasa loob. Itong dalawang quantity na ito. So, paano yan? So, equals. So, dalawang open parenthesis na naman para unahin ko itong n times the summation of x squared minus the summation of x raised to 2. Unahin ko yan muna. So, unahin ko yung n. So, ang n natin is 12 times the summation of x squared, which is this one. 88,733. Then, close. Then, next is you have to subtract yung, open parenthesis, yung summation of x raised to the power of 2. This is the summation of x. Then, close parenthesis. Then, raised to 2. Then, close mo yan. Okay? Wait lang. Hindi pa tapos yan, ha? Zoom in ko muna baka hindi makita. Yun. So, balik tayo dito. So, we're done sa first term. We're talking about the numerator. Balik natin dito. So, we're done with the first term. Ito. Let's go with this one. So, sabi dyan, we have to multiply both terms. So, asterisk, then dalawang open bracket na naman. So, n natin is 12 times the summation of y squared, which is this one, words on essay, ito. Then close, minus the square, the summation of y. Wait lang, parang may mali ako. Ito, multiplied by y squared dapat. So, that is ito. Right? Ito yung y squared, summation of y squared. Ito yan. Okay, na magkamali si sir. Now, next is the summation of y. Ang summation of y, ito, words on essay, 2,115 raised to 2 based on the equation. Then close. I think that's done. Tingnan natin. So, that's correct. So, nakuha na natin yung numerator, yung denominator na wala pang square root. So, all we need to do is square root yung denominator. So, paano ba magkuha ng square root? Equals SQRT, square root, open parenthesis, then kunin, click mo yung gusto mong kunan ng square root, yan, then enter. So, may value na tayo with numerator and denominator, which is this one. Ito at saka ito. Yan. So, all you need to do is divide them. So, that is equals to click forward slash, which is divide, then this one. So, hindi let's make this format cells natin. Dapat 4 ka-decimal places. Yan. Yan. Okay? Kuha. Now, to get r squared, i-raise to 2 mo lang yung r. So, open parenthesis, kunin mo yan, then close, then raise to 2. So, yan. So, nakuha mo na yung tatlo. Okay na to. Okay na to si r. Nakuha na natin. So, 0.92. 92 or 92.71%. So, strong positive correlation, if you remember. Okay? Now, we're done with R. Kunin naman natin yung Pearson. Sorry, yung regression line for formula. So, di ba? Kunin natin yung slope at saka yung Y-intercept. So, let's start with M. So, itong M, itong slope. So, start with equals, then dalawang open parenthesis, then n times the summation of xy. So, n times the summation of xy. This one, 183,222. Then close. Close mo yan. Then balik kayo sa formula. Minus the summation of x times the summation of y. So, summation of x times the summation of y. So, close. Close. Then another close para ma-close siya. As you can see, yung mga brackets, naka-color coding yan. Kung black, black, meaning ang partner niya ito. Ito at saka ito. Then red, red. Then ito at saka ito, partner. So, tapos na tayo sa taas. Sa slope, ha? Tapos na tayo sa taas. Let's go with the denominator. So, divide. So, dalawang open bracket. Then, first is n times the result of x squared or the summation of x squared, which is 88,783 times, ay baliktad, sorry. Dapat una ang n. N times ito, the summation of x squared. Okay? Then, minus, open parenthesis, the summation of x raised to the power of 2. Ito. Then close, then raised to 2. Okay? Then close. So, yan. So, 3.7496221, yun yung slope. Okay? Okay. So, okay na to. Okay ng slope. Next is yung y-intercept. So, equals na naman. So, the summation of y minus the slope times multiplied by the summation of x. So, dalawang open na parenthesis. So, summation of y is this one. Then, close mo siya. Minus open parenthesis which is m slope ito times the summation of x. Sorry, hindi pa pala tapos. Ulitin natin. So that is ang slope times the summation of x. Then close, dalawang close bracket or close parenthesis divided by n, which is 12. So that is negative 1 point, negative 145.28. So from that, we can create the equation. So ang final equation would be y is equals to 3.75x plus, minus 145.28. So let's go back sa slide. So yung slope natin is 3.74 as you can see here. So hindi lang na round off ng maigi yung sa kanya pero you get the point, no? Ito napaka-accurate kasi ang daming decimal places. Kaya yun. So siguro ni round off niya ng masyado. So nakuha natin yung slope. Balik tayo. Nakuha din natin yung mean ng exam grade at saka words on the essay. So let's see, no, nakuha ba natin yung mean? Yes, ito. Kuha natin yan. Next is, nakuha ba natin yung B? Yes, nakuha din natin. Which is negative 145.27. Balik tayo sa Excel. Ayun. Negative 145.28 kasi nga hindi tayo nag-round off. Ito sigurong sa slide nag-round off siya. Kaya medyo off ng 0.01 but it's okay. Okay? Now, let's go here. So the final equation would be, so alam natin na ang value ng m natin or ng slope natin is 3.75 or 3.74x. Okay? Minus 145.27 or 28. Depende sa result mo. You just follow. Sa atin, 3.75. Okay? Ni-round off niya kasi. Kaya ganun. Medyo di-design. But the acceptable margin of error would be 5%. Nasa 1% lang naman yung error. Now, what is the coefficient of determination? So the coefficient of determination is 85.85 or 85%. As you can see, nakuha din natin yung r squared. Ito, 85.94. So nakuha natin, which is 85%. So in other words, no, the exam grade strongly predicts or affects the how many words of a student will write on their essay. So balik tayo. So the longer or the manier the words on the essay, the higher the grade is. Okay? So it simply affects the grade or the grade, no, has an effect on the numbers of words in the essay. Okay? There is a strong relationship between the grade and the number of words in the essay of the students. And that ends our week 9. So